It is imperative that each and every one of us experience the joy, happiness, and sense of fulfillment that arises from a sense of belonging. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you will concur, Billy Bragg and myself, that there is something worthwhile in having a sense of belonging. Today I will explore with you the converse of Bragg's statement by exploring the graphic novel The Island by Armand Grida, and I'm sure you will agree that this tragedy could have been averted if the main character had been accepted and felt some sense of belonging. The ostracism that he experienced was similar to the migrants in Peter Chernevsky's poems Migrant Hostel and Felix Chernevsky. They failed to enjoy a sense of belonging, namely to a place, Australia, but found a modicum of belonging by bonding with others of the same nationality in Australia. I'm sure you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, belonging being the third most important, and no more is this clearly seen than in Felix Chernevsky. The Australian society in post-war 1950s did not openly embrace the government's policy to European migrants. Chernevsky uses direct speech in his poem to capture Australia's prejudice when the department clerk asked me in Dancing Bear Grants, "Did your father ever attempt to learn English?" As Bragg states, a sense of belonging is imperative, and Felix Chernevsky derives this for his love for his son, garden, and Polish friends. The simile in "loved his garden like an only child" captures Felix Chernevsky's sense of belonging to place. His absorption with nature is evident by the hyperbole "swept its paths" 10 times around the world. Felix Chernevsky's sense of belonging to place is further compounded by his strong bond with son and his Polish friends. Peter Chernevsky portrays the deep connection and contentment of his father by using the verb reminiscing when the interaction with his Polish friends. These men did not abandon their cultural heritage, and this is what allowed their sense of belonging to flourish. Yet the relationship between the son is somewhat strained due to the poet's fail to embrace his Polish heritage. The historical allusion, Hadrian's Wall, is used to show the tension that the son's inability to learn the father's language of Polish caused. "I forgot my first Polish word." Bragg speaks of the positive impact on the individual from a sense of belonging, and Felix Chernevsky is a testimony to this because he is happy as I have never been. Sadly, it is this ostracism meted out to newcomers that makes us realize that belonging is essential for physical and psychological health. The Island, a graphic novel by Armand Grida, represents the xenophobia of a community as it fails to embrace this new person that comes foreign to their island. The grey tones utilised throughout this text are symbolic of the misery of an individual suffers when he does not belong. The opening pages uses vectors to represent the man as a dark, diminishing figure in the corner of the page. The man's nakedness shows his vulnerability and his defenselessness, juxtaposing his isolated positioning in the group of islanders brandishing pitchforks with an intimidating, aggressive manner. The islanders' failure to assimilate the man is further shown by the pages where the local people put forth a volley of excuses as to why they can't employ him. The outsider is represented as a skinny man, which conflicts with the author's representation of the locals. And this illustrates his defenselessness and hence ostracism through aesthetics. In Felix Chernevsky, a hostile and unwelcoming environment, Felix was unable to develop a sense of belonging to his family, land, and other migrants. This also the case in Migrant Hostel, where Chernevsky uses animal imagery in the simile, nationalities sought each other out instinctively, like homing pigeons. And this shows how miserable migrants attempt to find happiness and comfort through each other in the unwelcoming environment. In Migrant Hostel, the migrants are literally isolated physically, similar to the man in the island, except this time not by water, but by a boom gate which acts as a guillotine. And this stops their attempt to belong in the Australian community. The poet personifies the gate as if it somewhat has authority to determine their ability to belong, illustrated by the metaphor needing its sanction to pass in and out of lives. Migrant Hostel shows us belonging is so important for a sense of identity and happiness, which is also highlighted through the island. However, unlike Migrant Hostel, the reader is positioned to feel overwhelming sympathy for the poor man who was allocated a goat pen in the uninhabited part of the island. This is shown through the position of the man in the image as he is distant from the others. Unlike Felix Chernevsky, the man does not have any alternative or personal choice. He endured the tyranny of the islanders' power. Intertextuality is used to show is used by Greta to show this existential horror that bisects the man. Munch's painting The Scream is evoked by the salient image of a man whose sheer terror of life is a result of not belonging to any community, nor place, nor person. And this represents the important need to belong, as Bragg so clearly states. The tragedy of his life can be directly attributed to this, and the final image reflects his tragedy of his life, death. It is clear to see how Billy Bragg concurs with Maslow, as there is something really worthwhile in having a sense of belonging. Peter Chernevsky expresses this theme in a personal, cultural, and social context in his poems, Felix Chernevsky and Migrant Hostel. Along with the support of the graphic novel The Island by Armin Greta, we understand that belonging is so worthwhile, as Armin Greta explained.